you look back because the time is the time is the master. And time could be a disaster. Yeah, you know. Got no time to play. The time is the master. And time is the master. Yeah. Cause you can't change the hands of time. And you could never turn back hands of time. Got no time to play. Got to get on the go. We gotta move it around a week when I tell the say no, but I got no time to delay when I tell the say. The time is the master. Go tick, tock, move it on the dot, and don't you look back until you could die. Serious time, this a terrible time. Cause some may say, cause this a serious time, yeah, you know. Got to know what to do in this time, is that what you're saying? Got no time to play, got no time to delay when I tell the say. Tick, tock, move it on the dot, and say you could never stop. Got no time to play, and say no time to delay. Move it right away and never till you don't want to see, cause this time is the master. Time is the master, time can be a disaster. Yeah, you know. So you gotta move around the go and do this little link, keep it coming to my doors and look over some moving out to the moment sound, it'll be a leak, come on, some of this video, when I go see what I tell you say.
You run and you run, catch up with the sun, but it's sinking. And racing around to come up behind you again. The sun is the same in a relative way, but you're older.
Welcome, it's Bitcoin Mamo. Doing the live stream on the Bitcoin price at the moment. I think we're going to have a drop soon. Let's do a bit of analysis on the charts, show my current trade. I'm only in a small $100 trade at the moment. I do think we are going to have a drop once we break around this 10.8 level. Do that music isn't too loud. A little bit too loud.
The song is over. All had something more to say.
So I've just got this head and shoulders pattern drawn here. So basically we've got the left shoulder here, the head, the right shoulder, and the trend line is just when we break this bottom of this green line. Might be a bit hard to see. A bit clearer. So I think once we break this trend line, the measured move would be from the top of the head to the trend line. When we break down, we should come down to meet around this 10.4 level, which also coincides with a big level. So just taking it from the top here, top of this where we bounce back up, all the way down to the bottom, and the retracement will come down to, let's get rid of this other one, to this 38.2 level, 35 level. I think that will trigger the rest of the downfall. Once we break this level, we will probably come down all the way down into the 9,000s, possibly high 8,000s. But I do think we'll probably bounce around 9.2. The chart's a little bit messy. Let's put it on the 4 hour. You can see at the moment, these red lines, this is the 200 moving average on the 4 hour. So we have just broken below that. So if we can open a candle below it and close below it, then I think we'll carry on down for sure. This other red line is the exponential moving average, the 200 on the 4 hour. The orange ones are the 100 and the yellow ones are the 50s. We do have another trend line just connecting the bottoms here, but I don't think this will hold. I think the measured move of this will break down. And one of the reasons I think it will break down is just looking at this is the S&P 500 futures. This is the US stock market. I just have this triangle pattern drawn here. And You can see we've just sort of broken out of it. We've opened a new 4-hourly candle already below the trend line. So I think that will carry on down. Go to a better chart of that. This is the, not the futures, just the S&P 500 that's currently trading. You can see we've also broken this daily ribbon here. Hope the music's not too loud. And a little bit lower. So we haven't broken this completely till we form a new daily candle without touching this line, opening and closing below the line of this ribbon. And I just have this peak trend line drawn. We created this gap back at the end of July on the S&P 500. I think we're coming down to fill that gap. If we do go further down, it could be quite a bigger drop. See, obviously the crash during March, we came down to 2200. We did make a new all-time high at 3500. Previous all-time high was 3380, and we've come back below now this high here. The Bitcoin follows the stock market quite closely at the moment, so I was watching this ribbon to get broken and then to see that Bitcoin would follow. We're getting a little bit of a bounce off this trend line, so I do think we're going to break it. Looking at the RSI, has plenty of room to come down on the 4 hour, it's only at a 50. You can see we've been travelling up pretty much since that crash back in March. We've peaked out in the overbought zone, above 70, now we're starting to come down again. So the bounce points might be around this dotted line. So we do have quite a bit of room to come down from 50 reading down to 30 reading. Stochastic, it went up a little bit, it's come back down again. So there is room for that to come back down and possibly stay in this lower region for a while. Go to a different chart. This is just the 4 hour ribbon for Bitcoin. So we haven't broken the 4 hour ribbon yet, but the 2 hour we got quite close. You can see we're right at the bottom of the ribbon here. We did test it once here, but then we've made a lower high here compared to here. So if we do break the bottom of this level, then it's a good sign that we will keep on coming down. Just looking at the daily. We haven't formed a clear candle open and close up on the upside of the daily ribbon. So we have sort of kept contact with it. We haven't completely broken it. So I think also once we break this level around 10,780 and clear this ribbon, again that will trigger the more downside. Just looking even at the stochastic RSI on the daily, we have sort of topped out. We got close to 100, starting to come down now, plenty of room to come down. Same with the RSI, it's got room to come down, it's only at the 50 reading. And we can see we did come up since that crash in March on the daily RSI, got up to 85, now we've started coming down. And I don't think, this was the bottom point. We can see quite often we go a lot lower than this before we start more of an uptrend. So I do expect us to at least come down to this line and perhaps fill that CME gap and go a lot lower. just on the daily chart. These are the 200, this is the 200 daily exponential moving average. This is 200 daily moving average. And this is all the way down at 9180, 9170. So I do think that's a possible target. Once we do fill that gap, we'll probably go a bit further down. We did bounce here at the exponential, that'd be 9770, which could possibly fill the gap. The gap is around that area. The gap is at this red line here, which is 9665. But the futures price can go below the spot price. So at the same time, so this gap could get filled and we could bounce at the 200 exponential moving average on the daily just here. But I do think we are going to come down to this 200 daily moving average. We can see it's pretty much lined up with the bottom here before we took off on this run. We did go up quite quickly, and when we do go up this quickly, quite often it does come back down. It's not more of a slow grind up. Currently the futures price and the spot price is at the same level. This is just the difference between them on this chart. Just to track that when we do fill that gap. We can just see Ethereum's having a drop as well. Ripple's having a drop. And yeah, the Nasdaq's coming down, the S&P 500. The stock market's having a downturn. Gold's having a bit of a pump, silver's down a little bit. Okay. Let's check out the 6 hour. We did just form a new 6 hour candle. I might tidy up this chart a little bit, quite messy. The 6 hour has come quite a lot of the way down, but the RSI is still quite high on the 6 hour. So I think this drop, if it doesn't happen before the daily close tonight, which is in another 5.5 hours, it might not happen till next week, early next week. But if we do drop during the weekend, that will create another gap on the futures, the CME Bitcoin futures, which is a good sign in a way, because it means we'll probably come back up to fill that gap once we finish the drop down. But either way, I think lately these big moves have been happening on a Tuesday, Monday, Tuesday, early in the week. Do just have a small trade, just $100 trade on. Basically I was shorting it earlier on from around these levels, around 10.7, and I did hold it for quite a while, and then I got a bit scared and I cashed some out in a loss as we come back down here, just to minimize the risk. I probably could have held on to it, but then I added to it up here and just raised my average buy-in. So it's not too bad of a position. Would have been nicer if it was up at these levels. But it wasn't too big of a loss. Maybe like $30 or something. We'll just go to the hourly. You can see the stochastic is low. The RSI has more room to go down, I think. You can see we've been coming down since the top here. We have been forming these lower highs, but we have been making higher highs on the chart. So that is a bearish divergence, which quite often indicates the price will come down eventually from one of these peaks, and we are sort of seeing that now. There's no divergence here between these peaks. See the RSI is coming down. But I do think the RSI will come all the way down at least to these 30 levels. You can see quite often we do go below that. So perhaps maybe down to the 20 levels. You can see the S&P futures starting to bounce. Perhaps we'll come back up and test this line of resistance. The line that was a line of support probably turn into a line of resistance and bounce back down. Unless this is a fake out and we come back into the triangle. I do think once we break that ribbon that we will keep going down. Just the daily chart. I've just got the Bollinger Bands drawn on here. You can see we're above the midline of the Bollinger Band, and the midline sort of corresponds with the bottom of this Ichimoku cloud, which is around 10.7. I think once we break these levels, we'll definitely come down back into the low 10,000s. The bottom of this Bollinger Band is around 9.6. Just looking at this triangle we were in previously, the measured move from breaking this triangle was down to 9,700, 9,680. We didn't quite reach that. Of course the gap is down here as well at 96.70. We can see just on the 4 hour that the Bollinger Bands have started to become closer together, started to squeeze together. This generally indicates that a move's coming. The closer they get together. This is just on the 4 hour. I'm not a massive fan of the Ichimoku cloud. I do look at it sometimes, but I don't find it as reliable as some of the other indicators we're putting trades on. The bottom on the 4 hour of the Bollinger Band is at 10,750.
Haven't you heard? It's a battle of friends, and for fools to feel cry.
We're starting to get a small bounce now. I might actually add to my short. Maybe at the top of this line.
can be helped, but there's a lot of it about.
So we might have a small bounce here with the 1 hour. The 1 hour stochastic is quite low. We might have a small bounce up and then finish the correction down. See, in this situation we were all the way down here on the stochastic. We got a bounce and then we carried on down. Something similar will probably happen, I think. Almost hit my buy-in. Each one of these is $50. Look at the ribbon on the 1 hour chart. You can see we have broken that. 1 hour is not as reliable as the higher time frames. The 4 hour we look like we'd bounced off the bottom again like we did here. Perhaps we could go all the way back up, test the top of this triangle and then break it further down. We do have the Fibonacci retracement tool drawn all the way from the bottom at March to the peak that we reached around 12.4, 12.5. And if we do come down to this 9.2 level, I think this would be a good bounce point, the 382 retracement. And it also lines up with the trend line that I have drawn, which of course is this massive triangle all the way from end of 2017 connecting the tops. You can see we broke out, and usually we do like to come back and retest the trend line that we've broken out on. So I do think it's very possible that we come back and retest this and then carry on further. You can see it pretty much almost perfectly lines up with the trend line, the 38.2 level if we were to have that drop straight away, but this might take a few days leading into next week, I think. We'll just go on to the weekly. You can see the weekly ribbon is lining up also with this trend line. So we could get support off the bottom of this weekly trend line, perhaps when we open a new weekly candle next week, which would line up here, which would be 91.60. Would also line up with the bottom of the weekly ribbon, and I think that will act as support. Just looking at the weekly stochastic RSI, it has been coming down quite a bit the last few weeks. It's down to a 9 reading. Of course in March, well, the bottom was actually when we were up here at 5.6, and that was about an 8 reading. Also just looking at the RSI, I just have this line drawn. back in the bull market 2015, 16, 2017. Once we broke this level, this 52 level, 53 level, we acted as support and we bounced off it during the whole bull market in 2017. See that a bit clearer. And basically it was also lined up with the weekly ribbon. We dumped into it, got support each time. You can see it lined up with this level of 52 on the RSI also. And then of course once we broke it, that was the start of the bear market. And we didn't break it again pretty much until the bear market pretty much broke at this breakout level, and we also broke the weekly ribbon. If we just zoom in on this, we can see we didn't quite come down to touch it here. We got close to a 54, so I think this is the that bit of the up direction, and then we're going to come back down and touch this line and then close that gap and then bounce off the weekly at this level.
Is in my head. The lunatic is in my head. You raise the blade. You make the change. You rearrange me till I'm sane. You lock the door and throw away the key. There's someone in my head, but it's not me. And if the cloud bursts, thunder in your ear, you shout and no one seems to hear. And if the band you're in starts playing different tunes,